Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. So, hello, welcome to the Big Ideas for Our Energy Futures series. This is the second session in the series. I'm Alison Cretney, Managing Director of the Energy Futures Lab. For those of you who may not know the lab well, the Energy Futures Lab is a coalition of innovators and organizations from all different backgrounds working together to advance solutions for creating the energy system that the future requires of us. So today we have Monica Curtis from Energy Efficiency Alberta joining us, and I'll introduce her a little bit more shortly. But just before we get going, I just wanted to share a couple things. First off, I know that we're joining online from all different locations, but as many of us are joining from the Treaty 7 region, I'd like to share the land acknowledgement for that region. And as I do so, I just invite you to just connect with and consider and acknowledge the traditional territories on which you live, work, and play. And this map is from nativeland.ca, and it's an excellent resource for understanding the traditional territories on which you reside and for growing understanding around indigeneity and colonialism. So I'd encourage you to familiarize yourself with that. So in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I wanted to acknowledge Mohkinstsis and the traditional Treaty 7 territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, as well as the Stoney Nakoda nations of Chiniki, Bearspaw, Wesley, and Métis Nation Region 3. So, earlier this spring, just as the health crisis and the economic crisis were really taking hold, my colleague Chad Park and I had written an article around, called 5 Ideas for Alberta's Economic Recovery. And the ideas that we featured in that included hydrogen, geothermal energy, bitumen beyond combustion, artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as lithium. And the article garnered a lot of interest, and we ended up hosting sort of 2 online forums to dig a little deeper into those ideas and for participants to engage directly with the fellows who are leading work in those areas. But of course, there are many big ideas for shaping our energy future. And so we've decided to launch this series and extend this conversation through to October of this year. And so this will be our second official session in the series Big Ideas for Our Energy Future, which is an interactive speaker series designed to have participants connect virtually with members of the EFL network who are advancing some of these big ideas. And certainly energy efficiency was one of the ideas that was raised a lot in those conversations around the 5 big ideas. And they were like, what about energy efficiency? And so we're really excited to have Monica joining us today to dig deeper into that. And I'll just say in these series, the intention is by discussing these ideas as a community, we see an opportunity to just further sort of cross-pollinate across all stakeholders in the energy system on how we can create the energy system the future requires of us, while fueling economic recovery in Alberta and Canada. And so listed here are some of the upcoming sessions in this bi-weekly series. And just really excited to have Monica joining us today. But before I turn it over to her, I just wanted to do a quick tech check because we are going to be using Slido today for both Q&A and polling. So I'd encourage you just right now to go to slido.com. It's actually generally easiest if you join on a device, but you can certainly do so on your browser as well. So if you just go to slido.com and there's a Q&A section once you're in. So if you go to slido.com, there's the code energy efficiency, just type that in. And then once you get in, there's a Q&A section and a polls section. And if you just go to the polls once you're in, there should be, we're going to have a test poll, although I'm not seeing it there, Emma. No biggie if we don't get
If you
that.
go to the next slide.
Oh, sorry, I have to launch it.
There you go.
Thank you. So how many cups of coffee do you drink per day? So to weigh in on this very important question, go to slido.com. Thank you. We'll just take a moment here just to let people get signed on. Just want to make sure people are in Slido because that's how we'll be gathering questions as Monica's presenting. And if you are new to Slido, there you'll note once you're in the Q&A portion as Monica's speaking and there's a question that you'd like to add, you can include it. And then there's a upvoting by liking other questions that people have asked. You can essentially kind of prioritize the questions to the top, the ones that you really want to hear her responses on. All right, lots of, not huge coffee drinkers in this group actually. Okay, very important information for us to know as we head into the rest of today. Hopefully there's enough of a caffeine intake that everyone's sharp for the rest of the presentation though. All right. So, yeah, with no further ado, I'm just really pleased to be able to introduce Monica Curtis, the CEO of Energy Efficiency Alberta. Monica is also a member of the Energy Futures Lab Steering Committee. And so Monica and I, a few weeks ago, had co-written an article on why energy efficiency is an important opportunity for Alberta. And we really wanted to expand the conversation today by including Monica in this Big Ideas series. So Monica, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Allison, and thanks for the kind introduction. When we talk about energy efficiency, it really is an interesting topic. When we're having these conversations in recent days, whether it's around every conversation seems to be around economic stimulus and what can we do in response to the changing environment in the world, COVID-19, what's the future look like for our children, what's coming up next, speculation, ideas. There's lots and lots of conversation going on about what can we do, what's different, what's new. And when we're having these important conversations, sometimes stepping back to something that's not so new is worth taking a little time for. Deploying at scale existing technology and practices can be a big idea. Do you want to go to the next slide? Energy efficiency suffers from a bit of a challenging environment. When you think of sweeps of wind turbines rolling, or rows and rows of solar panels turning towards the sun, or ideas like a new technology, whether it's a new micro turbine or some kind of piece of equipment, a single piece of something shiny and new and different. It's really easy to get excited about those. Those are the beautiful photogenic ideas that make great photo ops. A lighting retrofit, a retro commissioning project, installing air handling system. These don't sound beautiful. And sometimes they get forgotten about despite the opportunity that they represent. Over the last 3 years, energy efficiency has represented a big opportunity for Alberta and for Canada. Here in Alberta, we've invested about $250 million in energy efficiency programming by the government of Alberta. That's stimulated over $950 million in economic activity, nearly 5,200 jobs, and generated $800 million in savings from emission reductions and improved energy use. At Energy Efficiency Alberta, our programming, we've delivered a full suite of programs to commercial and industrial facilities, as well as individual households and affordable housing units. And our programs have consisted of 2 components. The first one is training and support services to provide, to really support service providers. So working with electrical contractors, insulation, HVAC, ventilation, air conditioning contractors, engineering firms, retailers, equipment distributors, all of those organizations that provide services and make up the energy efficiency sector. We've also provided programming that provides financial incentives to help with the cost of equipment. I want to point out really quickly that how our financial incentives work. There are international standards for program design for energy efficiency. Our programs align to those standards. We calculate the value of the energy savings to the utility system. Oh, Allison, if you can just go back one. Yeah, thanks. We calculate the value of those energy savings to the utility system, as well as the value of the carbon emission reductions in setting those financial incentives, recognizing the value to the province and the value to industrial or to infrastructure in the province. when we're paying those individual projects. In terms of our business participation, we've had 4,800 commercial and industrial sites across Alberta take advantage of that. That really adds up. A technical potential study conducted for Alberta shows that deployment of existing energy efficiency technologies over the next 20 years, so no recognition of improvement in technology over that period, would reduce electricity use, so improve energy intensity in our buildings by 1%. Well, 1% doesn't sound like a lot by itself. It really does add up. A 1% improvement in energy use in Alberta's building sector would produce $1 billion in participant and utility cost savings, 4.4 million tons of greenhouse gas emission reductions, and could decrease electricity demand by about 900 megawatts over 20 years. That would be over a 2.5, almost 3 to 1 return on investment for participants in the program. You can go ahead. There are multiple benefits that come with energy efficiency. The first one is to the carbon and utility system. So energy efficiency does provide benefits on an infrastructure basis by improving the use of energy efficient of end use. So in buildings, industry, facilities, we can support the utility infrastructure by delaying or reducing the need for high cost infrastructure and by producing carbon emission reductions at a relatively low cost compared to other sources of carbon emission reductions. For program participants, it provides direct benefits to their facilities. Beyond the reduced operating cost from lower utility cost as well as lower maintenance costs, there is most buildings see an increase in property values. High efficient technology tends to improve the comfort or usability of the facilities and some of those kinds of benefits that brings increased productivity and increased value in that building. There's also a positive return for society as a whole. So providing infrastructure and support for energy efficiency brings benefits back to meet societal objectives as well. Next. And some of those things is it puts people to work. Energy efficiency is a labor-intensive activity. It reduces costs for all Albertans by improving the efficiency of our utility infrastructure, as well as providing a source of carbon emission reductions. It reduces the need for new electrical infrastructure. There's particularly a great opportunity in Alberta for energy efficiency as an alternative to expansion of the distribution system. So really being able to gets called a non-wires alternative. So it's allowing utilities to invest on the end use side of the system, can reduce electricity infrastructure costs, supports environmental goals, and there's a variety of societal goals. Local job creation, community resiliency, health outcomes can all come related to the outputs of energy efficient installations. Specifically, thinking about a couple of those benefits, I want to spend a couple minutes just talking about jobs. Energy efficiency is local. A recent study by the Government of Canada on the macroeconomic impacts of energy efficiency shows 16 to 30 jobs for every $1 million invested in energy efficiency. That's a lot of jobs, and those jobs are local. Installing energy efficient equipment happens in buildings in our communities, providing high quality local jobs to local architects and engineers, electrical and HVAC contractors, construction trades, building operators, and the like. Over 1,600 Alberta businesses provide energy efficiency related services today, from distributors and retailers to technical professions and trades. The energy efficiency sector in Canada currently employs over 436,000 people. That's over 2% of all jobs in Canada are related to energy efficiency in whether it's from the manufacturing, distribution, installation, or operating of those systems and buildings. For comparative purposes, there's about 204,000 people employed in mining and oil and gas extraction, and about 123,000 people employed in telecommunications. So as a sector, it is relative in scale to other large-scale industries that we have across the country. Energy efficiency is also cost-effective. There's energy on the input side, so supply, whether that's from renewable energy, from traditional energy sources, oil and gas, and the like. But there's also the opportunity to look at and treat our use of energy in our facilities. So looking at energy on the demand side and how we're using that energy. And just like any other scale, you can improve that energy use and treat that as a resource when it's on the demand side, the same as you can on the supply side. And so when you look at energy efficiency, there's been a lot of work done across North America in terms of understanding the opportunity that energy efficiency and other improvements to energy use on the facility side can have, and the impact that can have. In Alberta, we are delivering energy efficiency programming at about 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour. So it is a competitive resource compared to other sources. If you look at the Alberta Electric Operating System, for calendar year 2021, the forecasted price for electricity that would be comparable would be $57 per megawatt hour, which compares to energy efficiency at 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour, or $24 per megawatt hour. So it is a efficient alternative that can be incorporated into an effective system. So it's got lots of benefits. Why aren't we doing it? It's and although I make fun a little bit at the beginning around the photogenics or how photogenic energy efficiency is, it is actually one of the things that's stopping us, is that it isn't easy to see the value of energy efficiency. That the systems are buried inside of our buildings, they're in mechanical rooms and in the ceilings, and we don't pay attention to them. There isn't, the value of energy efficiency isn't easy to find. You can't go to your utility bill and see the value of the savings that you've produced by investing in energy efficiency. So measuring those and putting a dollar value to them, there's a certain complexity to that, that while it's real, it isn't easily accessible. Access to high efficient products and services. We sometimes don't have service providers that are well equipped or stocking energy efficient alternatives, or really helping their customers identify those as an option or as a priority. And there's limited choices. Energy efficiency comes in small packages, and so there's sometimes limited opportunity for investing in our facilities when compared when having to make a choice between investing in the core business of that, whether it's a commercial building or a household or an industrial facility, manufacturing site, or the like. And so there's lots of challenges to really seeing energy efficiency and investing in it at the same level. So what can we do to help that along? When we talk about the big idea, what is those big things or step changes, activities that create a step change in terms of bringing energy efficiency into the forefront as a resource that can be measured, verified, and monetized in the same way that other energy resources are today? And there's 4 opportunities that can be looked at. The first one is that Alberta is relatively unique in North America in that energy efficiency is not formally incorporated into the utility system. And so including demand side resources, such as energy efficiency, but there are others. Distributed generation and demand response inside buildings would be other examples of that. But actually formally including demand-side resources into Alberta's Electric and Gas Utility Act is one step that could be taken that would increase the visibility and improve our ability to identify the value of energy efficiency. Increasing access to Alberta's offsets market for smaller projects. Large-scale projects, renewable energy and industrial scale energy efficiency has relatively easy access to Alberta's offset markets, but it's very complex to aggregate small projects to meet the protocol requirements, or can be expensive for small projects to provide the measurement and verification needed. So increasing access to the offsets market is another way to increase the visibility and the value of energy efficiency. Incorporating demand-side resources into the distribution system as an alternative to increased investment and expanding those systems, and expanding measurement and verification protocols so that energy efficiency can easily be incorporated and understood as part of ESG reporting are all things that we could do that could really move this relatively available and energy resource into a place where it can be part of a much larger contribution to the goals that we have. So thank you. There's an introduction to energy efficiency and its opportunity and potential to move it into a big idea with more weight. And I'll be interested in hearing questions and the opportunity to hear what some of you have to share in the breakout group.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Monica, for that excellent presentation. Tons of information in that. I know you have a deep knowledge in this space, so really appreciate you sharing some of that with us this morning. For those watching, we'll take questions in the on Slido. So again, going to slido.com and then the hashtag energy efficiency and just going to the Q&A portion is where you could submit questions as well as vote up other questions. So there's a few coming in. I'm sure others will be added. Monica, one thing I just thought I'd ask you to kind of kick off is in the article, you talked about how energy sources like renewables and geothermal, for example, have a mechanism in place that puts a price on them and thereby on the outputs of those projects, thereby sort of creating value or valuing them. And you spoke to that a little bit in your presentation. And I see there's also a question here that speaks to that a little bit as well about how you can't see the value of energy efficiency on your utility bill and why not. And yeah, just recognizing that there's not that same kind of mechanism for energy efficiency. I'm just wondering if you could say a little bit more about that and what needs to happen there, how that might look.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of different layers to that. Mm-hmm. The first one is, when we look at the commercial and industrial sector, being able to increase the use of analytics in those businesses. So having access, specifically the question about why can't you see the value of energy efficiency on your utility bill? The data isn't all in one place. And so having access to timely usage information for your facilities and having the skill and reporting in place to be able to report on those kinds of things. So a part of it is the use of how we deploy technology and how we equip our building operators to be able to access that. In Alberta, there's many benefits to the structure of our utility system in that generation and distribution and transmission on the electricity side, and then generation and pipes on the gas side are separated The challenge with that is that it's difficult to get the data. So, a big part of why can't you see it on the utility bill? Because the data comes from multiple sources, and bringing it together isn't a function of the utility, the distribution utilities, or the retailers that produce your bill. including it in the Electricity and Gas Act is a step in terms of providing the opportunity for utilities to actually engage in demand-side resources as a service for their customers. And that would be one way that, that some of that additional information could be made available in the marketplace.
Great, thank you, Monica. Oops, sorry, I just accidentally erased the question that I wanted to ask, but it was about the Julians Paradox, which I'm sure you get a fair bit, that idea of how, you know, by increasing efficiency, it actually leads to increased consumption. I'm guessing that that's not a new question. It hasn't been posed before.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of research about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it never happens, so I don't want to, you know, paint this as that, you know, that's not a real factor. But generally, energy efficiency is tied to our systems. So when you change your lighting system, or you change the HVAC system, or you change the air handling system from a low efficient to a high efficient alternative, the output for the user remains the same, while the consumption associated with that activity is reduced. And so you're improving the productivity of that system. Because that's the nature of energy efficient installations in facilities, you don't generally see an increase in usage that goes with that. Now, what you do see is the savings that come from that invested into other parts of the business, which generates more usage in a different part. So I think it's important to separate out, you know, oftentimes the utility bill doesn't seem to go down. Well, it isn't because you're just consuming more. It really is because the reduced operating cost has created the budget capability to do new things. And so you're choosing to put the money there. You could choose to put the money in other places, and that increased consumption isn't seen.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. There seems to be a fairly popular question here around Alberta not, you know, being one of the only, if not the only, jurisdiction that doesn't have centralized energy efficiency in North America, and the question of whether you see that changing anytime soon.
So it is true that Alberta is one of the only jurisdictions in North America that does not incorporate energy efficiency into its utility system, or have a provincial or state agency that centralizes services around energy efficiency. There has not been a focus in Alberta around those questions at this point in time, so it's not something that we really see, you know, that there's activity in place today that would see that change.
Oops, sorry. Uh-oh, sorry about that. Apologies, folks. We'll get back to that slide momentarily.
Maybe I'll just kind of add on that while you're looking for those.
Please do.
Is that does create some challenges for building owners and facility owners that are interested in energy efficiency, and it does create some challenges in terms of things like ESG reporting, so environment, societal, and governance reporting that's important to investors. Having a centralized source can support those things in a way that can support those things in a centralized way for consistency. The other side of that is that there is a lot of activity going on. So individual organizations, there's a network of environmental and energy organizations in Alberta, and so the fact that there isn't a centralized agency or a centralized focus, you know, that provides real benefits that's not available here. But the flip side is that there is a lot of activity in the marketplace.
Thank you. Look, sorry, not sure why it keeps doing that. Have to be careful about, there's a clarification question here around this comment of, does lack of access to high efficient products and services, what that refers to? Is it referring to high costs or not enough local technology developers?
So it is referring to not enough local supply. I'm going to use that word. So energy efficient technologies are not universally higher cost. That is actually one of the things that as high efficient technologies have evolved over time and as the demand for them have increased, we are seeing, like many other areas, whether you look at solar panels as another example, we are seeing a decrease in cost in those systems. And so things like lighting technologies, many of the HVAC technologies, things like compressed air systems, that when you look at the full set of features associated with the high efficient alternative to a non-high efficient alternative, there isn't necessarily an increase in cost specific to the energy efficiency. We do have a challenge in Canada generally and in Alberta in particular, that we don't necessarily have great inventories in terms of high efficient equipment. So if you have an emergency repair, for example, getting a high efficient alternative may take longer because it's not what's sitting on the shelf. And that so we have encouraging and continuing to support our service providers to increase local and timely access to high efficient equipment is where that comment was coming from.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe just while there's the question at the bottom there is another one that's just looking for a little bit more information on what you presented. Just if you could give examples of energy efficiency jobs.
So there's really three categories of jobs when we think about energy efficiency. There's the equipment development itself. So when you look at the study that I made reference to, they identified 6 categories of jobs. The front end is things like manufacturing, and distribution. So it really very much is about the energy efficient equipment and getting it available in the local marketplace. The second category of jobs is around the actual installation of projects. So architects, engineers, contractors, and the like. And then there's a third category, which is building operators. And being able to work with that building on an ongoing basis to manage and make full use of the high efficient equipment in that building. So we see jobs in all three of those areas.
Thank you. And how about this question around how do you see the availability of big data, analytics, and simulation technology as a way to lower audit costs and initial upfront costs in projects?
I'm so excited about this whole idea of audits. I had the opportunity, some of you will know that I spent a fair number of years working in the US market before I came back to Alberta. And one of the things that we're really seeing start to emerge is the use of big data to be able to predict building and really can be as useful in design of energy efficient products as traditional audits. Being able to look at patterns in usage, being able to track the things like the impact of the external environment on the building. There's just really a lot of opportunity, and really a lot, that is an area of technology development that we are seeing grow is building automation systems and building monitoring systems. Some of the challenges that we have in the timeliness, so utility data, for example, comes at best 30 days after the fact. Whereas building operating or building management systems then gives you it in real time. So both the combination of access to real-time data and access to system-based analytics that can guide management of larger scale facilities is creating some huge opportunities without much technology investment for improving the use of energy in buildings. And by buildings, I mean facilities broadly. That would also include things like a manufacturing site or an industrial plant.
Thank you, Monica. I'm seeing there's actually more questions on the Slido that aren't showing up here, so I'm going to ask you a few more from here. If there was one thing we could do to first make energy efficiency more widely applied, what would you suggest?
I think it's putting a clear price on it. So for me, incorporating energy efficiency into the utility system or increasing access into the offsets market are examples of ways that you can really clarify and solidify, put a fine point on what is the value of energy efficiency in terms of building the business case. So I think getting kind of finding the place for demand side resources, energy efficiency being probably the largest, is a piece of it. I think the other thing is on the investment side. So when you look, I'm going to use a simple residential example because we can all imagine it. When you build a high efficient home, or if you do a deep retrofit into your home, you go to the bank to get your mortgage. Financial institutions don't know how to recognize the lower operating cost and the increased property value that comes with that investment. And so it's not reflected in the risk profile for that, for that mortgage. And so energy efficient products are overpaying. They're delivering cost savings that are not being recognized in the investment, in how investments are valued. And so it's those kinds of things that really, it puts a dollar and cents onto the energy efficiency savings. So those would be the two areas that I think have really large scale impact, is being able to put things in place that make it clear what the dollar value is associated with that investment.
Thank you. There's actually a question. Jess Burgess from Acknowledgement posed a similar question, but it's specifically focused on technology. What 1 to 2 technologies do you see as the biggest opportunities in Alberta today, and then also 3 years from now?
Yeah, I think that a little bit depends on the sector. So in terms of the bread and butter, running energy efficiency programs over the last 3 years, we've had the opportunity to walk into buildings from individual homes to small businesses, large scale commercial and institutional facilities, and manufacturing and industrial facilities. And across the board, bread and butter boring energy efficiency is not there. So lighting systems, there's a huge opportunity for things like LED lighting that still exists in Alberta. It's not sexy technology, it's not even new technology, but wide scale deployment of some of those very high efficient motors has a fairly good penetration in the province. But when you look at some of those simple but often overlooked systems and facilities, so I would say that's one area, is that we still have lots of opportunity around pretty fundamental energy systems in buildings. So HVAC and lighting would be the best examples of those. I think the whole, related to an earlier question, I think what's emerging that's really exciting, it's building automation and building management systems, being able to actively manage the use of energy in our facilities and take full advantage of the technologies that have been deployed and are there. So I think both from a technology perspective, the building automation systems, but more importantly, the training opportunity around being able to improve or support really our building operators with education and training and certification and those kind of things that really recognizes the skill that building operators have and the impact they can have on the cost and productivity of that building.
Thank you, Monica. And one more for you, and I know this relates to a program that you have. What potential do you see for PACE in Alberta, and will this be enough to help residents and businesses overcome the upfront capital cost barriers for energy efficiency?
So property assessed clean energy is PACE, and it's a concept where energy efficiency investments are repaid in parallel with the savings. So most energy efficiency systems, whether it's a lighting system, it'll be 5 to 7 years typically is the life of that system, or HVAC systems, so the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, things like air handling systems, those tend to have long lives. 15 to 25 years is not uncommon, longer in boiler systems and things like that. And yet the upfront cost is all at the front. And so the idea behind PACE is that you use the property tax system to level out the investment over time. So instead of me as a building owner making that big investment, I tend to either move or flip my buildings in 3 to 4 years. Many owners don't hold buildings for 25 to 40 years. So they never actually see the direct benefit of the investment they've made. By tying it to the property, the savings associated with that investment and the capital cost can move along together. So that's the idea behind PACE, is that it's a way of motivating building owners who might not be holding that building for the life of an investment to go ahead and do it, because it will stay with the property. Alberta is very fortunate in that we're the only province in Canada that has legislation that for PACE. So it's the Clean Energy Improvement Program. And so Alberta does have provincial legislation. We do have the support of the municipalities. So both the AUMA and RMA have been actively supportive of the concept of PACE. And we have a number of municipalities across the province that are going through the steps of making that available in their jurisdiction. So in terms of the opportunity, I think there's lots of opportunity, and there's good infrastructure starting to be built. PACE can be a really good program for both commercial and residential systems. And some of the large municipalities, City of Edmonton is a good example. We've got leaders, some small communities like the town of Rocky Mountain House is another example, City of Devon, that are moving forward. A lot of the focus, because those communities, a lot of the interest is coming from individuals. A lot of the focus in the programming to date has been on residential programs. And so, I think that has a good start. And I think we've got some huge opportunity around extending PACE to commercial facilities in the province.
A huge thank you to you, Monica, for joining us today and sharing your expertise so generously. And of course, thank you all for joining us. And I think you were asked to sign up for the newsletter when you registered, so you had that option. But then if you'd also like to be in contact with us on our social channels, there they are. So please join. We look forward to re-engaging with you all soon. Thank you very much.